The child embodies our ultimate vision, that every Filipino learner will realize their full potential and ultimately reach their biggest dreams, no matter how high, no matter how hard, through quality education. And as our learners aim to soar, we must continue to elevate our goals. Rising, the kite is our emblem of aspiration to deliver the brand of quality in Philippine basic education. The quadrants of the soaring kite symbolize the key reform areas in forwarding this cause, as we embark on this aggressive reform to yield upskilled teachers, well-developed curriculum, improved learning environment, and responsive multi-stakeholder cooperation. Using the colors of our flag, the logo symbolizes our unity and serves as a reminder that it takes a nation to educate a child. Together, we as a nation will have to move forward and gain more momentum so that our vision of quality basic education for all shall take flight. Sama-sama sa pagsulong ng edukalidad.
Well, hello, Mrs. Morgan. Remember how hard it was to get your students' attention? Oh, Mr. Jeski, any explosive ideas? And you, Mr. Fisher, the world keeps turning, right? Okay, we're past all that, because now we have Microsoft Educator Center. Trainings, courses, webinars, programs, badges, points, certificates. Join now and get yourself ready for the new school year. Teach your best.
Nang sumiklab ang giyera sa Marawi, maraming buhay at kabuhayan ang nawala. Maraming kabahayan at paaralan ang napinsala. Sa kabila ng matinding suliranin, naging matagumpay ang DepEd na mabigyan ang mga mag-aaral ng pagkakataong ipagpatuloy ang edukasyon at muling bumangon sa sitwasyon. Habang naghihintay sa pagkumpuni at pagsasaayos ng mga paaralan, nagkaloob ang DepEd ng mga temporary learning shelters, remedial classes, learning kits, at feeding programs para sa mga displaced learners. Nabigla ang lahat sa pag-alboruto ng Bulkang Taal. Libo-libong pamilya, kabilang ang mga guro at mag-aaral, ang nawalan ng tirahan at mga ari-arian. Mabilis ang naging tugon ng DepEd upang makapagpatuloy sa pag-aaral ang mga apektadong mag-aaral. Sinikap ng mga guro na turuan ang mga mag-aaral na pansamantalang tumuloy sa evacuation center. Tumama sa bansa ang COVID-19 pandemic, dahilan upang maantala ang normal na daloy ng pamumuhay at trabaho sa lahat ng sektor, kabilang na ang kagawaran ng edukasyon. Nang ipatupad ang Luzon lockdown, inilunsad ang DepEd Commons upang tuloy ang pagkatuto ng mga learners habang nasa bahay. Sa kabila ng mabigat na hamon sa ilalim ng new normal, patuloy na nagpunyagi ang DepEd upang maghanap at maghatid ng mga alternatibong pamamaraan upang magpatuloy ang edukasyon sa pinakaligtas at pinakaangkop na paraan. Sa ilalim ng Learning Continuity Plan, layunin ng DepEd na magpatuloy ang edukasyon nang hindi nakokompromiso ang kapakanan at kalusugan ng mga guro at mag-aaral. Isusulong ng DepEd ang tatlong pangunahing layunin: angkop na proteksyon, kaugnay ng mga health standards at safety protocols para sa ligtas na school year, patuloy na edukasyon sa pamamagitan ng blended learning, distance learning at homeschooling na angkop sa kapasidad ng bawat mag-aaral, at mabisang aksyon sa pakikipagtulungan sa lokal na pamahalaan at mga partner organizations upang maihatid ang dekalidad na edukasyon para sa lahat. Bawat DepEd Division ay bumuo rin ng sarili nilang Learning Continuity Plan upang gabayan ang mga guro, mga magulang at mga mag-aaral sa bagong pamamaraan ng pag-aaral gamit ang online, modular at TV and radio-based instructions. Gamit ang iba't ibang learning modalities, nagdaos ng dry run ang mga paaralan sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa, katuwang ang mga local government units at mga education partners upang maging handa sa bagong sistema ng edukasyon. Isinagawa rin ang mga pagsasanay at oryentasyon sa mga magulang upang maging epektibong katuwang sa pag-aaral ng kanilang mga anak. Sa anumang hamon o sitwasyon, handa ang DepEd. Handang kumilos, handang tumugon, at handang magserbisyo.
Ang dami ng mga pagsusubok at challenges ang naharap at napagtagumpayan ng ating Department of Education. Tuwing may pagsusubok, priority palagi natin ang ating learners at ang ating mga teachers sa tulong ng parents at saka partners at ang buong bansa. Ngayon, sa hinaharap natin itong new normal na sinasabi nila, matatag ang ating kagawaran, matatag ang DepEd dahil pinagtibay na tayo ng panahon. Kayang-kaya natin ito sa tulong ninyo.
G'day everyone, I'm Mark. As a teacher and a former principal, I know that professional learning often comes at the end of a very long day. But there are exciting, less structured ways to be in the driver's seat of your own lifelong learning. A great place to start is by engaging with our Microsoft Innovative Educator, or MIE, community. This global community is big, in fact it's enormous. Our MIEs love connecting. Monthly tweet meets are global gatherings of inspiring educators around big topics, and their Facebook group acts as a persistent home for discussions and shared activities. Another way teachers are learning within communities is through Microsoft Teams. Now, greater teacher collaboration improves teaching across schools, and Teams is the ultimate platform for a professional learning community. It's open-walled and socially embedded, so you can incorporate your OneNote Staff Notebook PLC and have access to all the goodness of video chat, phone, and collaboration tools. With Immersive Reader built in, it's inclusive and accessible on any device. Your learning community is just a click away. Last tip, our Microsoft Education Centre offers great ways to gain new skills with courses tailored uniquely to your needs. Make it a collaborative experience by picking a MEC course to do together with your peers. And as a bonus, you can practice collaborative learning by exploring a research paper like the Class of 2030 and treat it just like a book club with your colleagues face-to-face or in Teams. The link to that research, it's in the description. Remember, learning is socially embedded. It's best done together for students and for teachers. Happy learning.
2020 brought new beginnings for the Department of Education. Ready to pivot towards attaining quality education, DepEd was hopeful of the challenges ahead of it. But as DepEd continued to work on its commitment, the world suddenly faced a steeper dilemma. Around the globe, countries like the Philippines had to shift their priorities to respond to a public health crisis brought by COVID-19. Schools had to be closed, activities had to be halted, graduation ceremonies had to be canceled, as people were urged to stay at home. A new normal dawned upon us. As soon as DepEd realized the impact of these disruptions in education, it began to proactively craft its learning continuity plan last April to ensure that learning opportunities will still be available. Consulting with partners and advisors through the Education Forum, as well as legislators, teachers, parents, learners, and the general public, DepEd made sure its LCP encompasses the concerns of the whole education sector in responding to the crisis. Its topmost priority being the protection of the health, safety, and well-being of learners, teachers, and personnel. To make informed decisions, DepEd first analyzed relevant data and epidemiological picture for the incoming school year. DepEd also issued guidelines on its required health standards to be adopted in all public and private schools and DepEd offices following DOH and IATF protocols. It covers 4 COVID-19 mitigation objectives, namely, to increase physical and mental resilience, reduce transmission, reduce contact, and reduce duration of infection. The LCP also outlined how learning continuity will be ensured. It streamlines the K-12 curriculum into the most essential learning competencies and allows the use of distance learning, homeschooling, and blended learning modalities. Since conducting face-to-face classes will be a risk in most areas, DepEd has anchored its delivery of education to modular, online, TV and radio, or a combination of all. Guided by teachers, modular learning will allow learners to use self-learning modules in a format applicable to learners' capacity. In online distance learning, teachers will facilitate and engage learners' participation through the internet, whether synchronous or asynchronous. TV and radio-based instructions, on the other hand, are converted lessons fit for the broadcast medium. The LCP assures that all our learners, including our SPED, ALS, Madrasa students, can still access education even within the confines of their homes, and ensures that their household capacity will not hinder their right to education. To make this possible, our joint Brigada Eskwela and Oplan Balik Eskwela is assisting the preparations for the rollout of the LCP. On May 8, the LCP was approved by the IATF. The President also gave it his full support and expressed his commitment to meeting the financial demands of its execution. The implementation of the LCP will not be easy. It is not a perfect plan, and complications can be expected along the way. But extraordinary times call for extraordinary and proactive measures, and the Department of Education is ready to address the challenges along the way with the help of our national and local government, partners, parents, and learners. As one nation, learning opportunities shall be available in this brave new world for our Filipino children.
When you need the focus to be on you and not whatever that guy's doing, open Teams.
Subukan mo! Tutal nawasak na naman namin ang lahat ng ari-arian nyo!
Sa totoong buhay, totoo ang pinsala ng giyera. Mula noon hanggang ngayon. Para limitahan ang kalupitan ng giyera, nagkaisa ang mga bansa 70 taon na ang nakalipas upang itaguyod ang Geneva Conventions. Ang Geneva Conventions ay kinikilala ng buong mundo bilang bahagi ng international humanitarian law na nagtatakda ng mga patakaran ng giyera o the rules of war. Ayon dito, huwag gawing target ang mga sibilyan at kanilang mga ari-arian. Tratuhin sa makataong paraan ang mga nabilanggo at protektahan ng mga doktor, nurse at mga ospital para paglingkuran ang mga sugatan at may sakit saan man panig sila nagmula. Alamin ang Geneva Conventions. Bisitahin ang www.therulesofwar.org.
Hi guys! So I just came from a meeting and I was just told that I would be leading this fundraising concert for International Students Day. And I have to present the plan to the school board next week. Okay, I'm going to need some help. Let me create a team space and invite my dream team. Sia, she knows all about the budgeting and stuff. Ivan, he knows all the kids from the performing arts group. Aisha, she worked on getting sponsorship last year. And Sam, because he's so cute. Let me lay out all tasks in Planner and kick things off. So, I'm almost done with my event concept and inspiration board. I just need Ivan to do some final tweaks and plug in the repertoire. Budget from Sia? Check. Sponsorship plan? Check. Done! Whew! When you start using Microsoft Teams, teamwork really does become easier. So now I'm heading over to present the plan to the school board. Wish me luck!
De Luna,
Present!
Herrera,
Present!
Valera.
Present!
Handa ba tayo sa school year 2020?
Present!
Ngayong taon, ang edukasyon tuloy pa rin. Sa tulong ng DepEd, mga guro at mga magulang, ang handang isip, handa bukas. Tuloy-tuloy ang pag-aaral. May mga modules para sa iba't ibang antas. Sa government TV, maging sa radyo. Mahalagang ligtas ang ating mga estudyante at guro. Kaya kahit nasa bahay, tuloy ang edukasyon. Kung tulong-tulong, may paraan, may aralan.
Handang isip, handa bukas.
Bisitahin ang DepEd Philippines sa Facebook at ang deped.gov.ph.
If you spend more time tracking down files than actually working on them, open Teams.
The COVID-19 pandemic has brought unprecedented changes to our usual ways of living. But the Department of Education remains unfazed by these challenges to fulfill the mission of Sulong Edu-Kalidad, the rallying call for national effort to deliver quality basic education to all Filipinos, which involve aggressive reforms in the 4 key areas: the K-12 curriculum review and update, improving the learning environment, teachers upskilling and reskilling, and engagement of stakeholders for support and collaboration to move forward together as we prepare the education system for the future. The call for Sulong Edu-Kalidad will continue and we have built the framework of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, or the BELCP, to put the needs of the learners at top priority. DepEd's BELCP is the major response and commitment to protect the health, safety, and well-being of learners, teachers, and personnel. The plan aims to provide opportunities to continue education even in these trying times with a BELCP in place, supported by an unprecedented number of diverse stakeholders from the academe, media, industry groups, NGOs, business and private individuals. Sulong Edu-Calidad will be able to sustain the aims in its reform for quality basic education. In our journey towards quality education, we have established the 4 pillars of aggressive reforms from the start, and we have been continuing to progress in these pillars. In improving the learning environment, we took action in the construction and rehabilitation of school buildings, ensured the availability of learning materials and equipment, and prioritized our last mile schools. The challenges of the pandemic also brought to light the urgent need to upgrade our ICT infrastructure to service the needs of education. In terms of the teachers' upskilling and reskilling, we were able to establish more innovative professional standards for teachers and school heads. We have aligned the professional development of teachers with their career progression to track their development as part of the National Educators Academy of the Philippines transformation. With the launch of the Education Futures program, where we will be focusing on innovative actions and solutions to improve the state of our education, we are now more than ready to start a new journey and continue our fight for quality education for all Filipino learners. Finally, we've given high importance to the engagement of stakeholders for support and collaboration. In support of this, we have convened the Philippine Forum for Accessible Quality Basic Education, or the Education Forum, which leverage other partnerships for education quality and strengthen partnership with the Philippine Normal University as the country's National Center for Teacher Education. The department has also been developing a professional development program for teachers and school leaders in order to equip them with the skills, materials, and data that will allow them to help their students prepare for PISA 2022. This intervention consists of the following components: online training for teachers and school leaders, development of learning materials and practice tests for students, deepening the analysis of the PISA 2018 results, and supporting school-level action research. Now that the year is about to end, our commitment to Sulong Edu-Calidad will continue and will be far from being gone. With a lot at stake, considering our new knowledge and experience from this year's challenges, we are equipped to face a new future. As we head on to the future where we will face many challenges and uncertainties, the department will always be the guardian of every Filipino learner's right to education.
Sino ba ang hindi naapektuhan? Sino ba ang hindi nag-alala? Sino ba ang hindi nalito? Lahat tayo ay naapektuhan. Lahat tayo ay nag-aalala. Lahat tayo ay nalito. Dahil binago ng pandemyang dulot ng COVID-19 ang paraan ng pamumuhay ng lahat ng mga Pilipino saan mang sektor ka nabibilang. Tumigil ang panandalian ang ating mga nakagawian. Tumigil ang lahat ng uri ng transaksyon. Tumigil ang lahat ng operasyon ng mga paaralan. Nakalilito. Nakakakaba. Paano na ang kinabukasan ng mga kabataan? Paano na tayo sa hinaharap? Opisyal na nilulunsad ng Kagawaran ng Edukasyon sa pangunguna ng Office of the Undersecretary for Curriculum and Instruction ang DepEd Teaches. Ito ay isang online na programa na gagabay sa mga guro, tagapangasiwa, magulang at mag-aaral hinggil sa mga pagbabago sa batayang edukasyon ngayong new normal. Ang DepEd Teaches ay angkla sa sulong edukalidad na nakatuon sa 4 na pangunahing pangangailangan ng mapunyaging reforma tungo sa makalidad na pagtuturo at pagkatuto. Una, pagre-review at pagsasapanahon ng kurikulum ng K-12. Ikalawa, pagpapaunlad ng kapaligirang pampagkatuto. Ikatlo, paglinang ng mga bagong kasanayan sa mga guro. At ang ikaapat, ang pakikipag-ugnay sa mga stakeholder para sa suporta at kolaborasyon. Sa pamamagitan ng virtual learning platform, ang DepEd Teaches ang magsisilbing bukas na komunidad ng pagsasanay na titipon sa mga guro, tagapamunong pang-edukasyon at sa sinumang may pagnanais sa pagtataguyod ng kalidad na edukasyon sa bansa at sa pagtagumpay ng bawat Pilipinong mag-aaral. Ang mga opisyal, education specialist, learning content expert at outstanding teacher ng DepEd ang magiging tagapanayam na magbabahagi ng kanilang kaalaman at kasanayan sa kurikulum, pagtuturo at pagkatuto, pagtataya at lahat ng kaugnay na mahalaga sa proseso ng pagtuturo at pagkatuto sa new normal. Bilang mga frontliner ng classroom, inaasahang magiging aktibo ang mga guro sa programang ito. Ang mga tema at paksa ay angkop sa kanilang pangangailangan at konteksto sa pamamagitan ng accessible na platform, ang social media. Sumali na sa OUCI family sa DepEd Teaches kung sama-sama mapahuhusay pa ang mga guro, kung sama-sama higit na malilinang natin ang mga mag-aaral.
A blessed afternoon, everyone. We are back on another engaging presentation exclusive here in DepEd Teaches. We are very pleased to serve you again and with a grain of knowledge that we will definitely help you improving your instruction and becoming a more effective educator. Good afternoon, Ma'am Ana. I hope everything is well with you today.
Good afternoon, Sir July. So a warm greeting to all our live audience here in DepEd Teaches, DepEd Philippines, DepEd Tayo, and to all our viewers in YouTube as well. You know, Sir July, in every episode, we learn something new. You cannot say, I heard this before or I've done it before because we are in a new situation. And since we are using different learning delivery modalities and different resources, it only makes sense that we must try new strategies or modify our practices before to adapt to the present context and to respond to the needs of our clients. What do you think about it, Sir July?
Absolutely, Ma'am Ana. And because of the uniqueness of our situation, we are able to step outside of our comfort zones. And that we challenge ourselves to be more flexible, agile, and responsive in fulfilling our duties and responsibilities to our learners. And so with that, we are very grateful to our stakeholders, especially to our educators who have been very committed to deliver and continue learning. And so to our teachers, you deserve a big round of applause for a job well done.
Indeed, Sir July. So the mere fact that we have a lot of viewers here and DepEd Teaches Facebook page is a growing community, it only reflects the determination, motivation, and commitment of our teachers. that they really want to give their best for their learners. And this is what DepEd Teaches is trying to offer, a support to facilitate knowledge sharing that taps the best resource persons. And even though it's just a short presentation, I am pretty sure our viewers have a lot of key takeaways.
I agree, Miss Anna. There are many free webinars and online learning opportunities out there since this pandemic started. But what makes DepEd Teaches unique among all of this is our topics or episodes are tailor-fit to the needs of our clients because remember, we gathered feedback from our teachers in the field when we conducted the training needs analysis at the national level, and we garnered more than 150,000 responses. These figures speak a lot about our teachers' pressing needs, and we have heard them. And so all episodes are anchored to the results of this training needs analysis survey.
Yes, I remember that, Sir July. The response indeed from the training needs analysis was overwhelming. But we won't stop from that because we also value your feedback in every episode. So please continue sharing your valuable insights, comments during the presentation, and we will try to read some of your key takeaways before we close the episode. So just use the hashtag #ISupportDepEdTeaches, hashtag DepEd Teaches Episode 9, and share your insights and we will try to read them later.
And so again, we encourage our viewers to join us in the comment section and give us your thoughts about the presentation. We want to know how you are learning in every episode. Just like today, what do you think is its connection to your life and how it makes sense to you as a teacher or as a learning facilitator? Your comment could be in the form of a question or an insight related to our episode that promotes reflective thinking.
That's right, Sir July. Hopefully, we get a lot of response, insights from our live audience right now. You know, we cannot just simply be passive recipients of information, but we need to be active users of the knowledge that we gain here. So we look forward to reading your comments. If not for today's episode, probably next week, we'll try to capture your key takeaways. And for those of you who have not joined yet our official Facebook page, visit now DepEd Teaches, and it's time for you to like, follow, and share DepEd Teaches.
So at this point, while we are still waiting for others to join us in our Facebook live streaming, let us have a short intellectually stimulating activity. Similar to our past episodes, we will post a question and our FB viewers are given 30 seconds to share their answer. And so for today, we have two questions. So the first question is being flashed now on the screen. So the question is, what is contextualization in teaching and learning? Again, what is contextualization in teaching and learning? So we are giving again 30 seconds to our FB viewers to write their responses in the comment section on what is your perception about contextualization in teaching and learning.
Okay, so for our next question, what are the techniques for a culturally responsive teaching? Again, you can see on the screen, what are the techniques for a culturally responsive teaching? And so we encourage you to participate actively in the comment section given our two guided questions. Let me just repeat. What is contextualization in teaching and learning? And what are the techniques that you know for a culturally responsive teaching? You may not be able to provide answer immediately, but as we move along in the presentation, we hope you can share your thoughts with us in today's episode.
At this point, we are honored to introduce our resource person, Dr. Lorenzo O. Macasocol. He finished his bachelor's degree with flying colors in Northern Mindanao Institute of Technology, where he graduated summa cum laude. And he further completed his doctorate degree in management in 2014 at St. Joseph Institute of Technology. From a humble beginning as a teacher way back in 1999, he then became a principal in 2009, where he received recognition as an outstanding principal and an outstanding official coach in Bulawanong Sulo Outstanding Schools Division in 2018.
He was also a former PSDS in North Cabadbaran District, SDO Cabadbaran City, and eventually Dr. Macasocol became the Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Schools Division of Surigao del Sur in 2014. A year after, he became the OIC Schools Division Superintendent, Schools Division of Cabadbaran City. Afterwards, he also became the OIC Schools Division Superintendent, Schools Division of Agusan del Sur, and currently, he is the OIC Assistant Regional Director of DepEd-Caraga Region. Please welcome a competent and well-rounded person, Dr. Lorenzo O. Macasocol.
Good day, everyone. I am Lorenzo O. Macasocol, the officer in charge of the Office of the Assistant Regional Director of DepEd-Caraga Region. Most people call me Dudong, Sam Lorenzo, but today, just call me anything. And I am very fortunate and privileged to bring to you a discussion on the topic of developing a culturally responsive teaching and learning process. In this short talk, we will revisit the key elements of the Indigenous Peoples Education Curriculum, which is a contextualized K-12 basic education curriculum of the country. And this emphasizes the teaching methodologies and strategies. Then we will also identify some techniques and developmental approaches that teachers and school heads can do to foster a culturally responsive teaching and learning. Now, anchoring on DepEd Order number 32, series of 2015, also known as the Adoption of the Indigenous Peoples Education or IPED Curriculum Framework, let us all remember that the key elements of an Indigenous Peoples Education curriculum are the curriculum design, competencies, and of course the content, the teaching methodologies and strategies, the learning space, the environment, learning resources, and classroom assessment. These key elements enable DepEd to effectively implement the IP education curriculum. Now, I will stress this again in our discussion today. We will encounter words like IKSP or Indigenous Knowledge Systems and Practices and the ILS or Indigenous Learning System. IKSP's friends are systems, institutions, mechanisms, and technologies comprising a unique body of knowledge that evolve through time that embody patterns of relationships between and among peoples. And when I say peoples, I mean the indigenous peoples, their lands which they treasure and respect very much, and the resource environment which they get their livelihood. While indigenous learning systems, on the other hand, refers to the indigenous cultural community system of educating that succeeds the generations of youth into the community cultural system, including the IKSPs. While labeled today as an informal modality of education, an ILS also has a curriculum, pedagogical approaches and teaching strategies, the forms of assessment and mechanisms for management of the learning process. Now, a culturally appropriate and responsive curriculum employs teaching methodologies and strategies that strengthen, of course, enriches and complements the community's indigenous teaching learning processes. The spiritual dimension of teaching and learning indigenous knowledge systems and practices shall be recognized at all times and must, again, I would like to underscore that, must included in the planning of the learning activities. The conduct of rituals related to particular IKSPs to be learned shall be the purview of the community. Again, the purview of the community and shall be planned with the community elders. To recognize the main transmitters of IKSPs are the cultural bearers, the culture bearers and the IKSP holders who use appropriate methods and strategies in teaching this. They shall be active knowledge managers in the teaching learning process. In the education process, the IKSP holders and culture bearers do not only provide and validate information, but also facilitate learning. They are learning facilitators and they must be considered that way. Their active participation shall ensure that all IKSPs are transmitted in their proper context, validated in meaning, and in a manner appropriate to the kind of knowledge being taught. Content that are best implemented with the culture bearers and IKSP holders shall be the community's purview again, and I would like to emphasize that again, and the learning process for content should be linked to community life and culture and shall be designed in consultation again with the community elders. Teaching methodologies and strategies inherent to the ILS of the community shall be given maximum premium to ensure that the learning styles and processes that indigenous learners are already exposed to are cultivated and further nurtured. The appropriate introduction and application of teaching methodologies and strategies coming from outside the community shall be discussed within the community. Now, if you are going to ask me what are the techniques for culturally responsive teaching, I would like to cite the Education Advocate Organization. A culturally responsive pedagogy is student-centered, and I think all responsive pedagogies across all types of curriculum shall be student-centered. Because when this approach to teaching is used, we consider the uniqueness of every student. Their cultural strengths are identified and further nurtured and improved. So what are the techniques for culturally responsive teaching? First, you have to get your students' name correctly. According to the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, knowing our students also means learning how to say their names properly. When we pronounce the students' names correctly, it does not end there. It means further. And what are the very personal and important messages that pronouncing of the students carry? This means the following. I care about you. I accept you. You are very important to me, and so on and so forth. So by modeling this behavior, we teachers can cultivate a classroom climate that is equitable, open, fair, friendly, no? So when we used all of these techniques, no, to encourage an openness in the teaching learning environment, we also encourage our students to learn about each other. We empower learners to share their thoughts, of course, their opinions, and then understanding of their needs and interests and learning styles. In a normal face-to-face setting, you can do this by establishing cooperative groups for them to have time to communicate with each other to meet not only the learning goal but also to foster tribal connection. But with the physical constraints brought about by this pandemic, learners have to learn more about themselves because they are staying only at their homes because of this distance learning modality. But they can further study their roles in their community and families and in their roles in keeping themselves healthy and safe, because we are actually advocating this in this time of pandemic that everybody must be healthy and safe. This can be also fostered by providing self-learning activities that in our contextualized modules will develop learners' intrapersonal intelligence. Teachers, through iPad experts and iPad education implementers, should tailor fit the content delivery of the most essential learning competencies at the lens. Again, I am underscoring this, at the lens always of an iPad learner. Now, let's give students a voice. Of course, every student, every learner has an opinion. In the culturally diverse classrooms, friends, the teacher not only acts like a facilitator, but I think teachers must be encouraged to act, no? Uh, Not to act an instructor, but to be more like a facilitator, no? So let us be aware of language constraints, no? In traditional classrooms, no? In the face-to-face classrooms, students who are not native English speakers often feel marginalized, no? They feel lost and pressured into discarding their original language in favor of English. But in a culturally responsive classroom, the diversity of language is celebrated, encouraged, and the level of instructional materials provided to non-native speakers is tailored to their level of English fluency. Accompanying materials should also be provided in the student's primary language before they are delivered in their second language. Example, teachers must first narrate the story to the iPad learners using their mother tongue before the story is read in English. In this way, learners can easily assimilate the meaning of the story. Again, now let's go back to the context of DepEd Order number 32 series of 2015, which states that contents of the instructional delivery should also be contextualized. No, and it gives emphasis on the terms of localization and indigenization, which guides us contextualizing lessons for our iPad learners. And when I say localization, I hope this will serve as a review. Localization refers to the process of relating learning content specified in the curriculum to local information and materials in learners' community. Example of this is the use of local resources as materials for instructional aids, like the use of local plants in discussing the parts of the plants. No? So the use of local plants and discussing the parts of the plants will bring, no, the students to understand better because they know the plant, because it is locally propagated. Indigenization, on the other hand, refers to the process of enhancing curriculum competencies that includes education resources and teaching learning processes in relation to the biogeographical, historical, and sociocultural context of the learner's community. Now, some examples that I may be able to cite, no, on this uh, is the use of local stories, using local heroes, of course, presenting our local fabrics and other local identities that help our iPad learners get connected to the lesson immediately. Because I believe that once we open, once we open their world, they will let us enter and the connection is automatically established. Now, the techniques I mentioned can be readily applied to your class, but contextualization of contents and its instructional delivery requires developmental activities that teachers and school heads and all of those who have stake in education must develop to effectively deliver the curriculum at the lens, again, I would like to underscore this over and over again, at the lens of our iPad learners. So here's how we develop a culturally responsive teaching learning process. No, let me, bring this forward to you, and I hope you will appreciate this. Teachers should provide additional activities that are related to their cultural practices to empower indigenous identity. And school heads should get the support of the iPad community. No, again, because in leading an iPad school, the iPad community and its entire elements, are of great help, and so they should not be set aside because we need to get the necessary knowledge needed to enrich the instruction. Our IP elders are one of the best teachers, no? They are the best teachers probably, and they can be the best resource persons that can help us enrich our teaching and learning process because they can help us use indigenous materials as teaching aids because they know what appropriate indigenous materials must be used for a particular topic. And of course, they can also recommend how to harness inner senses practicing multiple forms of storing and expressing knowledge because they have previous experiences already. We can also directly include IP elders or experts from the community as resource persons for some topics. And some of these topics are the use of the musical instruments, the indigenous musical instruments, the weaving perhaps, the IKSPs, the customary laws, the discussions of customary laws, the IP history, and many more. We are not the only source of knowledge and inspiration because if we are going to admit it, the community elders, the IP elders are more knowledgeable than us. So the entire community will serve as our source of knowledge that will help us empower our learners in appreciating and learning their cultural significance and identity. So teachers, we have to broaden our knowledge of the language within the locality to improve instructional delivery. We need to speak their language. And school heads should also actively engage teachers to various learning and developmental activities concerning iPad education. Because speaking is crucial in the total development, of course, specifically on the language development of IP learners, it is simultaneously performed while learner listens because speaking and listening are always interconnected, and that is by Academia 2016. Thus, teachers who do not know the language of the community are encouraged to learn the language so that they can relate to IP learners and, of course, their family and the entire community. This can be achieved through community immersions. So you have to go to the community, you have to know their interest, know what they have to know, how they use their time, and what is their local behavior and life. And of course, this also includes communication. You have to talk, you have to make yourselves available. You have to make them feel that you are one with them in the whole community. And other verbal engagements within and outside the school. Teachers and school heads must not only confine themselves in the school, they have to go out, and immerse themselves in the community. Mastery in IP language allows teachers to develop contextualized reading materials. Of course, this includes lesson exemplars and other learning resources that are also readily available because the DepEd has provided us various iPad trainings. DepEd has enabled us to use the DepEd iPad funds, because this DepEd iPad funds are made available to all iPad implementing schools, for the administrators and teachers to effectively deliver the articulated contextualized curriculum. Now, since iPad implementing schools have already become a part of the iPad ecosystem, teachers should maintain the functionality of the school clubs so that learners can also interact and grow socially. And of course, when we go back to our classrooms, hopefully when this pandemic is over, we have also to maintain our iPad corners in the classroom so that learners can be supplemented with all these materials available inside the four walls of the classrooms. And of course, the celebration should continue because as officials in the school, we have to advocate the celebrations so that we can open the arena of iPad programs from the school and then to the community and bridge this together so that there is a simultaneous way of getting connected. And of course, school heads are expected to allocate appropriate resources for the promotion of school iPad activities from the school MOE. Performing arts, for example, this is a very specific example, should center to cultural arts such as songs, such as dances, and literatures that are distinct to the IP community. And the development of these arts should be appropriately acquired from experts and IP elders. IP programs and celebrations should always in accordance to the spiritual and socio-cultural dimension of the indigenous knowledge, systems, and practices. These activities should always be supported financially and physically to help the community enrich their way of life and cultural practices. Now, teachers, you should accustom to the school environment in accordance to the entire IP community. Of course, you should study their patterns and identity. School heads must regularly consult IP community and elders to help the school adapt to the nature of life and of course of the community. The physical features of the school shall be tailored to represent the colors and identity of the community. I have been to many iPad school because the former division office that I was leading, is considered one of the iPad divisions in the entire Caraga region, and how vibrant the colors that represent our IP community. I love the blend of the yellow, the black, and the red. And of course, as a Caraganon, we are very proud, to represent our cultural identity to the country and of course to the whole world. If I remember our former regional director, Francis Cesar Bringas, loves to wear the colors of the Caraga, because it represents not only the vibrant culture of Caraga, but of course, red represents the life, So we have to remember all of these details, But more than the physical attributes of the school personnel should also behave according to the community's way of life. In behaving, we mean we have to physically represent them so that, of course, when we say that I am a teacher in an iPad school, I am the school head of this iPad school, it means that we are also living, the kind of life that our IP community is living for the past many centuries and of course to the future ahead of them. Meaning to say, we have to consult carefully, our leaders in the community so that we can have a deep cultural meanings to their tribal patterns. While physical or face-to-face instruction is halted temporarily because of this COVID, this is the best time for school heads, teachers in IP communities to adapt and accustom their school to be more welcoming for parents and students who will hopefully come back to school. I am very positive, for this. I am very positive with our prayers and collective, activities or engagements done by our national government. Everything will come to pass, and we will just wake up one day, we are already back to school. So, when we develop culturally responsive teaching and learning processes, that differs according to the IP communities, because one IP community differs to another IP community. In the context of our country consisting of many ethnic groups and tribes, it is almost impossible to carefully ink all cultural practices and transform them to the corresponding curricular forms. What we can do always is to remain open and understanding even with our cultural differences. I think this is the essence why we have iPad education. That is accepting everyone even with our diverse cultural practices. Let us celebrate all with our uniqueness and will continue to believe that every child is unique, and every child, whether he or she is an IP learner, has the right to education. And this education must be accessible and must be of quality. Friends from the Department of Education, to those who are with our iPad schools and iPad communities, accept my heartfelt salute, because I know you are doing more than any ordinary teacher and school head in promoting respect for uniqueness and diversity among the many cultures this country has. This is your Sir Dudong, and thank you for letting me join you in this very short conversation, and let us continue celebrating diversity, individuality, and if I may say, let us continue celebrating humanity. Thank you very much, and good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Director Macasocol, for a comprehensive and brilliant presentation about the techniques and ways on how to develop and maintain a culturally responsive teaching and learning experience. Now, let us try to read some comments from our viewers who answered our questions a while ago. A comment from Ma'am Jaisel Bustamante. She said that contextualization is modifying competencies into actual or real-life learning and using actual stories or reading materials into teaching and learning experience. Also, another viewer, Ma'am Brenda Lee Sabino, shared with us that contextualized teaching and learning engages students in active learning while assisting them to make meaning out of the information they obtain from the lessons. Another comment from Marcelina Maneses. She mentioned that adapting localized materials found in the community is a technique in developing culturally responsive teaching. And lastly, from Magdalena Bacud, she mentioned that teachers need to be creative and resourceful to apply culturally responsive teaching. So thank you so much to our viewers. We love to hear more insights from you. Don't forget to use the hashtag #ISupportDepEd Teaches and hashtag DepEd Teaches Episode 9. You can also share your selfie post while you are watching in today's presentation.
Thank you so much, Sir July. And again, thank you so much, Director Macasocol, for a very timely presentation. So before we end, we just have few announcements. For episodes 8 to 10, we only have a single registration and an evaluation. which will be on the 10th episode. So all questions will come from episodes 8 to 10. So we expect that you will watch all the episodes to pass the evaluation and receive the certificates of participation and appearance. Again, there's only one evaluation and one registration for the theme, The Learner and His Environment, episodes 8 to 10. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and follow DepEd Teaches. We hope to see you again next week.
On behalf of the curriculum and instruction strand, I hope it has been a meaningful afternoon with us. See us again next week, and always remember, here in DepEd Teaches, our mission is empowering teachers, enabling learners. Good day, everyone.